Minister for Monitoring and Evaluation has expressed dissatisfaction with the progress of work on projects at the various ministries. This follows a rapid assessment on the various ministries of the work that has been carried out so far. Now, speaking to Joy Business at a stakeholder workshop, the minister blamed the situation on a number of challenges.
The workshop brought together various stakeholders from the civil and public sectors to look at monitoring and evaluation in achieving government priority programs. The Ministry of Monitoring and Evaluation has been tasked to assess and evaluate various programs, policies and innovations under the various ministries to ensure that we get tangible results for these various projects. Now, today's gathering was to assess a policy framework for priority government programs. But in the midst of the discussion, that was the performance of ministers so far.
What we're doing now is assessment for the year, to see how people have achieved their targets and why if they don't achieve them, why they don't achieve them, and what we can take to make sure it is this year.
Okay, but what are your assessments so far? And you indicated you were not really satisfied.
Progress is slow. Okay. From where I said progress is slow.
What could be attributed to this?
There are several reasons. New government, new processes, and a full understanding of what the government resource framework is all about.
So moving forward, how are you going to address this?
We are addressing we are dealing with the ministries on an individual basis.
The Chief Monitoring and Evaluation Advisor Ministry, Andrew Sibe, said the progress was largely due to funding challenges.
One of the emerging challenges, first preliminary assessment, was low release funds, which affected, implementation of programs, and then other constraints. One of the challenges in terms of release of funds has to do with the use of business, the integrated financial management system. So where there is a need to strengthen capacity, that will be done.
Meanwhile, Senior Advisor to the Minister of Finance, Dr. Yao Ansu, stressed there must be a shift in how things are done if any progress will be made in achieving goals.
When Singapore started the transformation drive, invited investors from Silicon Valley in California to come to Singapore to try to attract them to invest. And from the moment the investors first came and talked to them, in 90 days of their arrival to come to talk to Singaporean government in Singapore, within 90 days, they built a factory, employed people, started producing, and they were exporting. In Ghana, how long would it take for an investor to come in here, talk to officials, get through all the processes, sell the factory, get the land, hire people, and start exporting? So maybe we cannot do 90 days. How about 6 months, half a year, or even 1 year? These are the type of benchmarks that we need to be setting ourselves. We are really serious to move from talk to action. So, in conclusion, Ghana Beyond Aid, the President has set the vision, but for this vision to be realized, we really have to be a fundamental shift in the way we do business as usual will not cut it.
Another issue that came up was the soon-to-be-introduced electronic dashboard, which will make way for improved monitoring in all ministries.
Now, CEO of NS Chemist Limited, NS Sapong, is urging government to place emphasis on improving competitiveness of indigenous pharmaceutical firms. According to him, the high cost of doing business in the sector is virtually bringing most local pharmaceutical companies to their knees. He was speaking to Joy Business during a business tour of one of his company's manufacturing plants at Tema by the Chamber of Commerce and Industries.
Bediako Sampong stays behind NS Chemist to help us understand doing the pharmaceutical industry and challenges and as well the future. What do you think are the challenges?
Yes, at the moment, the most pressing issue is assessing credit. It costs a lot of money. Because we buy money from I mean, the commercial banks are at a rate of about 30% rate, which makes it very, very difficult. I mean, Europe is about maybe 4 to 5%. In other countries on the continent, it's about 12%. So this is a very serious challenge. At the same time, you know, infrastructure, because to put up a factory on your own, I mean, you need to get your own land, which is very, very difficult to come by, because with our new factory, I mean, we went to court for about 7 to 8 years. You know, someone has sold the piece of land to another company. You know, so we go to court and contest all these things.
And all these factors, of course, are also even documented in the Doing Business in Ghana report by the World.
Of course.
So these are prevailing issues. But what of the utility tariffs? We hear that government has currently introduced specific relief for industries like yourself.
I mean, which is very, very good, because electricity bill is very, very high. And since we also use a lot of water, we hope that, I mean, that bill, the water bill, will also come down, so that, I mean, our products wise will be very competitive. Because, I mean, there's a lot of importation of preparations into the country, and we are also putting a lot of liquids, and we use water, you know, so that if the bills will come down, but I think will become more competitive.
Tell us about the local pharmaceutical industry in Ghana. Do you see it thriving, or you see it still facing these challenges?
You know, the challenges are there, but we all accept that business is a dynamic entity. Right. So we must face up to the challenge. Okay. You know, I'm the president of the Pharmaceutical Manufacturers Association of Ghana, and I mean, we really move forward. Okay. You know, the opportunities are there. I mean, we've been talking to the very look, we need to give it to us, and they think that, I mean, we'll do very well in the sub-region.
Well, as a way of ensuring the growth of the industrial sector and opening up the economy, the Association of Ghana Industries has begun partnering tertiary institutions to empower students to venture into the private sector of the school. According to the AGI, there's a need for a more stringent industry-university collaboration to produce versatile graduates capable of turning the fortunes of the country around through the private sector. At the launch of the Industry Innovation Unit at the University of Cape Coast, the Central Regional Manager of AGI, Albert Osei Abebio, hinted they will push more resources into the development of students to reduce the rate of unemployment and help churn out skilled graduates for the job market. Richard Kojunyako has more.
The AGI says it sees the collaboration between industries and the academia as a critical tool necessary for skill development, acquisition and adoption of knowledge, and the promotion of entrepreneurial spirit in students. Speaking on behalf of the Association of Ghana Industries at the launch of the Industry and Innovation Unit at the University of Cape Coast, Regional Manager of the AGI, Albert Osei Abebio, underscored the need for the industries and the academia to exist in the atmosphere of understanding to help grow the industrial sector. He believes research and development agenda can be best coordinated to avoid duplications, stimulate additional private research and development.
For the majority of firms in Ghana, the most important link to a university is through the recruitment of skilled graduates. Education and training, which remains one of the key roles of universities, especially in our country, where the lack of skilled workers is a major bottleneck, hindering the competitiveness and innovative capacities of firms. AGI believes efforts have to be intensified to improve the quality of university graduates by fostering stronger collaboration with universities and between universities and industries. Matter, the AGI pledges its support for the Industry and Incubation Unit, which the university has launched.
Head of the Directorate of Research Innovation Consultants at the University of Cape Coast, Professor Samuel Enim, says the industry must be encouraged and resourced to grow at an appreciable level to open up the economy.
And we've seen troughs in instances where our GDP grew at negative 12% in 1975. Currently, Ghana has been earmarked as one of the fastest growing economies. The key question is, how do we consolidate our economic growth? How do we accelerate our economic growth? And from our point of view as an academic institution, you can only do that if you follow the path where we are moving away from a resource-based economy to a knowledge-based economy. And one of the things we should do is to talk about growth that is not driven by agri sector, growth that is not driven by the services sector. Currently, this is what is happening to the high growth that we are recording in 2017. With all optimism, I can say that the sustainability of this about 8% growth that we recorded in 2017 is very minimal. That is whether we can sustain it, we need to sustain it. Because industry did not grow. Industry saw a retrogression as far as the growth of the economy is concerned. And what we can do as a nation is to underpin our growth with technology and underpin our growth with innovation.
The launch of the Industry and Innovation Unit at the University of Coast is to serve as a springboard for students of the university to the job requirements of industry when they graduate, and also to start their own businesses using the knowledge acquired. Richard Kwejenyako, Joy News, Cape.
You're watching Business Live. We are turning to the latest developments in the banking sector, and the Bank of Ghana is rejecting arguments that it is seeking to directly regulate cost of credit with the Ghana Reference Rate Initiative. The new formula for interest rate calculation went live yesterday, with new borrowers likely to be the immediate beneficiaries. There's more on the Bank of Ghana's response.
Bank of Ghana argues that this program is being done directly in consultation with the Ghana Bankers Association, rather than the regulator going out solely to compel banks to implement this initiative. Officials of the bank also maintain that this is mainly aimed at bringing some transparency in determining cost of credit and ensure that lending rates reflect current development on the market. So this cannot be described in any way as capping of interest rates, according to one senior official, Joy Business Engage. Another official at the bank had also told Joy Business that this mechanism is to bring more transparency in the setting of interest rates, which seek borrowers in shopping around for the best rates.
Meanwhile, economists and head of economics at the economics department at the University of Ghana, Professor Peter Quartey, is allaying fears the new formula for calculating interest rates is an attempt to provide a limit for commercial banks to extend credit. Now, following the implementation of the Ghana reference rate, some industry players are expressing mixed reactions. One key concern, as we've indicated, is that the new formula is an attempt to provide limits on interest rate calculations. But according to Professor Peter Quartey, the regulator's move will go a long way to eliminate high default rates among banks.
For me, the good side of it is bringing transparency in the way interest rates are determined, because you find banks hiding behind the high default rates and high cost of doing business, and charging customers high rates, yet they also go ahead and post it high profit of each year. But this is not an attempt to cap interest rate, because Kenya did it. We were trying to cap, it didn't work, it backfired. So I don't think Ghana would do the same, but rather make the system transparent. Now, if you go to the website of the Association of Bankers, the Kenya Association of Bankers, you can key in figures. If you want to borrow a certain amount, you can, for each bank that you want to borrow from, key in your figures, and it will tell you what your repayments are going to be. Clearly, I can decide that based on this information, I will borrow from bank. This step is for all the banks or on their website or their mother association. To borrow. This is how much giving. This is how much you repay, and I think it will be good for business.
About how much 0.% reference rate as a for you, is it good enough?
Yes. So yes, the base is good. Then they cannot compete and decide how much they are adding to the base rate. So if you go look at your risk profile, if you're a small scale borrower or you're a micro enterprise and you go and borrow, your risk might be higher than if a company like Unilever or a bigger company will go. So I think it's a good reference rate.
Well, economist Dr. Eric Osei says even though the Bank of Ghana's move to control interest rates is laudable, the regulator must equally put in place measures to increase savings rate in the country to stimulate more confidence in the banking sector. Dr. Sibe explains that commercial banks rely on borrowing by the public and businesses to on-lend, and therefore the need to enhance a savings culture. Dr. Sibe was speaking at the release of the IEA 2017 Business Confidence Survey results in Accra.
I mean, what we are saying is that, the banking sector should make sure that savings, are attractive. People should see savings as a good alternative for storing value. But as it were, you look at the spread between the saving rate and then the lending rate is so wide, which doesn't make, savings attractive. So one of the things that we're encouraging the central bank to do is that much as focusing on lending rate, coming out with a regulation, what it calls the reference rate. It used to be the base rate. Now it has come out with a formula for determining the reference rate. It should also move into the direction of saving rate, all right, to try to have some kind of benchmark to instruct banks to provide some positive returns on people's savings. That is done. That can attract more savings to the banking sector, because one of the issues that is also militating against lending is about the fact that there are not enough mobilization of savings, which provide much cheaper, costs for banks to lend. Banks have to rely on fixed deposits and on borrowing in order to lend, and that is very expensive. But saving is very cheap for banks. If more people are saving, one, the bank will have enough ability to give out more loans, and two, the cost of borrowing will also come down significantly. So there should be a national mobilization, there should be a national campaign to encourage more people to save. Our saving rate in the country is far too low, and that explains why there's huge financing gap, and government have to borrow, and we also have to depend so much on external investors and FDI to come.
Okay,
that's
so
what is happening in the banking sector, some kind of instability, some microfinance institutions collapsing, and people not able to get their deposits, and some banks going down, and all of that. I think kind of discourage more people to save. So I think the prudential supervision of the central bank should be strengthened, to making sure that the people have enough confidence the banking sector so that they can also put their money, save more, and the banking sector will have enough money to on-lend.
And Dr. Sibe has also been sharing his thoughts on reasons businesses are not employing enough workforce, despite the fact that there are some favorable economic indicators for business success. Now, in recent times, the dwindling inflation rate pattern, coupled with the falling policy rates, relative stability, and some tax removals are giving a positive business outlook. Unfortunately, the level of unemployment continues to rise. Dr. Sibe thinks businesses must concentrate on labor-driven jobs rather than the service sector that is technologically oriented.
What is really explaining that why businesses are not ready to employ more people? It could mainly be that most of these investments, are going into the services sector, which is much more technological driven, and so there's not much hand needed. So we are actually recommending that government should make sure that the investments that are coming in and new investments should go into the highly labor-intensive sectors like the manufacturing sector and the agricultural sector, which has the potential to generate more jobs. Otherwise, the war against unemployment may not be, successful, because jobs are not created as much as this economy, is producing, and that is quite concerned. So, businesses want to invest; they have much more in the economy, but they do not intend to employ more, and I think that has to be addressed.
Moving on, and the push by local banks for the December recapitalization deadline to be extended has been criticized by some industry players. My colleague George Affe looks at some of these concerns in the following report.
Local banks are to be seeking President Akufo-Addo's intervention
to push for the December 2018 deadline to be extended to 2022. According to the Daily Graphic, they argue the current structure, if implemented, could lead to their collapse. This appeal was contained in a letter by these banks calling themselves the Association of Indigenous Universal Banks. But for those who are against this move, they argue it could send signals that political pressure can always be brought on the central bank governor when a regulatory action doesn't favor a bank. Or let's say the president can always intervene on a banking regulation issue, which might not be good for the supervision of the banking sector. They also maintain that it might not be in the regulator's interest to have different set of laws for local banks as well as foreign banks in the country. Our sources close to the Bank of Ghana maintain that they remain resolute with this regulatory directive in terms of increasing the minimum capital requirement from 120 to 400 million Ghana cedis by December 2018, an indication that the directive would not be reviewed.
Time to bring you one of our top stories. President of IMANI Center for Policy and Education, Franklin Cudjoe, has criticized the tax identification number policy, describing it as absurd. He says its implementation by the Ghana Revenue Authority is a demotivator for income generation due to the slow process of acquiring a TIN. Mr. Cudjoe spoke to Joy Business at the 25th anniversary launch of the Graduate Students Association of Ghana at the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology. Prince Apia reports.
It was the launch of the 25th anniversary celebrations of KNUST branch of the Graduate Students Association of Ghana, GWASAC. The theme was the role of graduate students in ensuring a Ghana beyond aid. Founder of the IMANI Center for Policy and Education, Franklin Cudjoe, says the way to realize Ghana Beyond Aid dream is proper public financial management. The implementation of the tax identification number has attracted huge public uproar. Mr. Franklin Cudjoe describes the policy as absurd.
In fact, it's not fit for purpose. There's no way you can generate enough revenue by erecting stumbling blocks in the way of people who want to pay a tax. You don't generate it by filling papers and they're going to interface with some individual and they'll give you some assigned number. It should be randomly generated. Then you can verify at the point of you needing a service. That's how I think should be done. All this business of telling people if you don't have team, you can't do business is actually backward. And I call on the president to tell the GRA to immediately take steps to make this randomly generated. It's like when you are registering stuff on the internet, you get unique codes. Why? Do you see human beings before you get that? But if you don't put the proper code, you never move to the next step. It's doable. Let's allow technology to work. Let's not make fetish of technology. These are simple things that can be done. The danger it poses is that there will be little money for the states because me, if I have a business and I now have to go and register a team and I have to go through that turmoil, I probably will stay in my corner and will not pay tax in time, right? And then two, I mean, clearly it doesn't show growth of the GRA or tax authorities. I think the whole tax system should be re-looked again. We should decide, you see, if we have given the tax authorities an optimal tax for which the country will need to develop, I think they'll think outside the box and not get into this cycle of churning out archaic methods of generating taxes. This is very archaic and they should change it now.
President of the KNUST branch of GWASAC, Abraham Edupoko, says graduates must question the effective use of Ghana's resources.
Ghana is 61 years. The president mentions that we should go with the Ghana, our country should go beyond aid. Then you think of it, what have we been doing for 61 years? That now we are calling people to get beyond aid. Is it that you mentioned that not bad to, or what is the real issue talking about? So because of that, we said fine. As postgraduate students, we believe that the future lies within us. Whatever being the case, the future president, the ministers, all of them will come be among crops of people like us. So why don't we prep our people towards that? What are we doing today? What has happened in the past? And what is the future holding? And that is why sometimes we need to understand what informs the decisions we are taking today. Why is government saying one district, one factory? Why is government saying one village, one dam? Is it doable? How? What research are we having? What data are we having? Research is all about information, and information helps make informed decisions.
Prince Apia reporting.
Our interview of the day now still to do with the tin, and economist Professor Peter Quartey has urged the Ghana Revenue Authority to ensure that the tax identification number registration is made easier and faster. According to him, even though the implementation is laudable and would go a long way to help in mobilization of revenue, any impediment would discourage the public from acquiring their identification. He spoke to Joy Business at the official launch of the University of Ghana College of Humanities book on transformation.
I'm yet to see the details of the tax, that are being, but I believe these are not taxes that are going to hurt production. If they are taxes that are in commodities that are high demand, that if you tax, people will still consume, why not? I mean, we have your tax elasticity. You try to look at some commodities that people would consume irrespective of how much tax you put on it. They are luxury goods and you want to tax them, that is fine. But we are yet to see the details and analyze the impact on the local economy.
GRA's TIN number, enforcement of the TIN, how does it affect the financial institutions?
It's a good step because the TIN would help us to rope in or broaden the tax base. What I expect and I hope is what is happening is that it shouldn't take too long and shouldn't be too difficult for one to register. If it takes about a day or a few hours to register, you can just download the form, fill, attach whatever is required and get your TIN. For me, I support the VRA, but the GRA very much.
And that's it for Business Live tonight. There's more news on our website. There you see it, myjoyonline.com/business. We've got the day's latest stories plus all the videos just in case you missed out on any of our bulletins. My name is Darryl Kwal. Thanks for watching. We're back same time tomorrow.